Afternoon, Chiefs. My name is Master Sergeant Kiana Campbell, and this is our afternoon session of our chit chat, our female chief chit chat. So, as I stated in other videos that I have put out there, in certain settings that I've been a part of with my peers, if it was the NCOA Academy or at ALS, when I was around my peers that were females in particular, it was surprising how many of them had never met or seen a female chief master sergeant in the flesh in real life. And then on the flip side, a lot of my male peers wanted to be able to talk to a female chief master sergeant to kind of pick their brain when it comes down to trying to not necessarily motivate, but to push their female airmen in certain areas that they could show empathy. But it's a big difference when you have someone who can truly relate. So I put a call out, and in this call out, the numbers were over 100. And so with that, I just want to be clear that because of a call out and everyone wanted to shout you all out, I wanted to make sure that I provided a setting to where you all could get your points and thoughts across without it being all 100 on one platform. So there wasn't a cut. It was okay, how can we put certain personalities or make sure that we have a well-versed of different backgrounds in one setting on one type of panel. So for today's 2 sessions, this is a guided Q&A. I didn't ask all of the individuals who nominated you all. I asked them if they could ask you all any question at all, what question would that be? So of those questions, I kind of came up with the Q&A that I would like to get a spin from you all, get you all's perspective. In the future, there's different ways that we definitely want to explore it with a live. We will do a live Q&A. If it's the last thing that I do on Facebook, we will definitely get that done. In the meantime, I wanted to go through each one of you all and introduce yourselves, kind of tell us your background in case someone doesn't know who you are, and just your who was one of the first chiefs that you can think of in your earliest memories that inspired you. So we're gonna start with Chief LaPonte. I'm gonna say the names wrong until we get to the topic, but LaPonte. Chief
It's
L.
okay. Hi, Chief April Lapatota. Hi. So thank you so much for doing this, first of all. I've been in the Air Force. Next month will make 21 years. I came in as services. I stayed in services for 4 years, and then I retrained into public affairs. I've been in public affairs ever since. I did get to step out, but within the career for a little bit while I filled IG duties, which I absolutely love. Great experience. Currently, I'm the Chief Enlisted Manager for Pacific Air Force's Public Affairs. And the first female chief that I ever had was when I was a senior airman, and that was Chief Master Sergeant Angela Riley. She was amazing. She was a very strong leader and one who truly cared for her airmen and sorry, my cat's joining me, and got to really know her airmen. And that care, that steadfast leadership she provided, she's the one who inspired me and wanted me to become a chief. So I owe a great deal of thanks to her. She's still on my Facebook. I don't talk to her as much as I'd like, but she is the one who really influenced me.
Thank you, ma'am. It's definitely nice meeting you. All right. Next, we're going to go to Chief Mahoney.
Hi, thank you for having me on this. It's a great opportunity for us to even meet each other and be able to answer some questions for everybody else. So I am Chief Catherine Mahoney. Currently, I am working at A.S.K. I've been in the Air Force for 22 years as a maintenance manager. I'm a 2R. So at A.S.K, I'm the 2R MFM. Let's see, I'm married to another chief, Chief Patrick Mahoney. We're dual military. We've been married for almost 18 years now, both in maintenance, which is difficult, but I enjoy it. I've enjoyed it for the past 22 years, being in the maintenance career field. So for me, I would say that one of the first female chiefs that I ever came across in maintenance was Chief Master Sergeant Gaines. And she was at Nellis Air Force Base with us. She was one of the AMU chiefs. And for me, that was one of the first, that was the first time I've ever seen a female maintainer, Chief Master Sergeant. Typically, they're not in for that long. And so to me, it was really inspiring to see that. She was pretty hardcore. And I just knew, like, from there that that's how I wanted to be. And that's my experience.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. And you hit the nail right on the head with that, the operational side or the maintainer side. So I definitely thank you, Chief, for making time to be with us today. All right. Chief Williston, I have you next, ma'am.
Hi, good morning from Kadena.
Okay. Good morning from Kadena. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yes.
I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm very grateful to be on the panel and grateful, to you for even opening up the question. A lot of times we don't get to see what excellence looks like. So, this is a great forum to be able to do that. So I am services, 23 years of service. I actually pin on, I believe, in August. So this is my 12th assignment. So I have been all over the world. The Air Force has given me a lot of opportunities. And I just, want to give back. So my first memory of a Chief Master Sergeant, she actually was a tech sergeant when I was an Airman Basic. And so she became a Chief Master Sergeant when I think I was a senior airman or a staff sergeant. And Chief Master Sergeant Angela Valentine. She was a force to be reckoned with. She walked in the room, you knew she was powerful. It's just like, wow, even as a tech sergeant, she was powerful. I would be on the grill, just living my best life. And she just, everything she wanted us to do, she wanted us to take pride in it. A lot of times people come into the services career field and they don't feel the pride that you feel later on in your career. And so she just always encouraged us. She always lifted us up. She looked at our strong points as well as our weak points and helped us grow in both areas. And I'm just grateful that I got to experience that at such a young time in my career.
Thank you so much. Thank you again for being here for Kadena. I appreciate it. All right, Chief Master Sergeant Hartson.
All right. First off, I want to just echo what everybody else is saying. Tech Sergeant Campbell, thank you so much for doing this. Oh, shoot. I owe you a drink, right? Master Sergeant, ma'am, excuse me. Master Sergeant Campbell, soon to be Chief. Thank you so much for having this venue for us to get together and not only get a chance to meet one another, but to reach so many people who, from what you have told us all, that haven't seen what a female chief looks like. So thank you for giving us this opportunity. My name is Nakia Hartson. I am the 2nd Force Support Squadron CEM, Senior Enlisted Manager. I'm a career personnelist. I think I'm going on 23 years it'll be. I've had my fun in the Air Force, so it'll be 23 years for me in June. Let's see, my first memory of a female chief. The first person that comes to mind is, I met her, she was a senior at the time, and I was a senior airman or staff sergeant. It was Senior Master Sergeant Trey King. She pinned on chief, and then she later became a command chief. And I want to echo what Chief Williston said. It was just something about her that when she walked in the room, her presence was known. not just because she was almost 5'10", but she was tall, but her professionalism spoke volumes. I mean, I wanted to be her. And I think I've only may have had maybe 5 conversations with her, but the way she took care of business, the way she carried herself, the way people addressed her, the respect that just followed her and her name, it was something that everybody was in awe of. And not to mention, she was from the same place I was from. So that kind of, hit home for me. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, and so was she. I mean, she's a published author. There was so many things, the list could go on, but she was the definition of leading from the front. And that's the first chief that really, really stuck out to me. So shout out to retired Chief Master Sergeant Trey King.
All right. Chief G, ma'am, you're up.
Okay, let's make sure I get the mute button off this time. All right, thanks again. I mean, this is awesome to see chiefs from around the world, right? But to the magnitude of the posts and the overwhelming responses that you got, that just shows volumes of what you're trying to do here. So thanks. And then I echo what everybody else said. So I'm career services by trade. I did 6 years as an MTI, then came back and the career fields all merged and it was FSS and I didn't have a clue what I was doing. And then I spent a stint in medical group, being their superintendent. I don't know how that happened because I don't do needles and I don't do blood. And then of course, I'm the command chief now at Dover Air Force Base. So super, super exciting to I have made it to almost 11 months here. And so for me, that's been unheard of in the last 6 years. So crossing my fingers, I could stay here maybe another year, I'm hoping. So the first chief that really put an impression on me was really when I came in the Air Force at Nellis. Chief Master Sergeant Patricia Logan, she's retired. They had a lot to work with to get me to where I needed to be. So she put a lot of work and effort into me and teaching me how to be a young female adult. So we're still good friends on Facebook. I keep up with her, but in reality, I think she set the example and kind of pushed me to challenge myself.
All the way from Dover. That's very amazing. All right, Chief Wall, I have you up next now.
Good afternoon, evening, morning to Kadena. Thank you. Yes, I'll echo what everybody else says. Thank you. What an opportunity. And I feel privileged to be amongst all you awesome ladies. So thank you. Chief Master Sergeant Shannon Wall, Dover Air Force Base 436 Force Support Squadron Superintendent. And I absolutely love my job. I am a career training manager. So I feel even more privileged to be sitting in this FSS, leading our airmen, and it's truly a gift. They're putting me to pasture here in October. I will retire after 30 years in the Air Force, and what a way to go out. So really feel fortunate. I'm dual military. My husband's also in, and we met back in the dorms way back in the day, and have been married for 26 years with 2 awesome kids and an Irish setter that you've probably seen in the background. So life is good. The first female chief that had an impression on me was Chief Master Sergeant Cynthia Davis at Grand Forks Air Force Base, North Dakota. Oh, by the way, my second favorite assignment, Dover being my first. This Chief Davis, she was our MSG chief at the time, and I ran FTech. And one afternoon she came over to me and she had a bold conversation with, at the time, Tech Sergeant Wall. And she told me, hey, these are all the great things that you're doing, but here are things that you could be improving on to make yourself even better. Did she do it publicly? No, she did it privately. And it was a more personal conversation, but it was from a chief who took the time, the care, and the courage to grow, an airman that needed help. So I really appreciated that. And her approach to that, to things that I needed to work on, made all the difference on how I try to approach airmen, right? So really was just a turning point in my career. But again, thank you for the opportunity. It's awesome, and I look forward to conversating with y'all.
Thank you. Right, Chief Oberg.
Hi, greetings. This is Chief Master Sergeant Jennifer Oberg. I want to echo all the rest of the chiefs, obviously, by saying I sincerely appreciate you doing this and giving me the opportunity to come and talk to everybody today. I think this is a wonderful thing that you're doing, and I think a lot of benefit will come from it. I have been in the Air Force 30 years this year. No retirement in sight for me at this point. Probably at least another 6 years, I would imagine, if I could follow the course that I'm on. I've spent the majority of my career in maintenance and communications. And because of that, obviously, I didn't really see what a female Chief Master Sergeant looked like till much later in my career. You know, when I joined, that just wasn't heard of, and it wasn't seen, at least by me, in any capacity. I was avionics and maintenance, and I was also communications maintenance. I did, however, do a 4-year tour up at headquarters with the Air National Guard. I am currently the Mission Support Group Chief out at the 163rd at March Air Force Base in California. Shout out to the Grizzlies out there. And absolutely beyond happy to be doing that job, and I have a fantastic team. I will say that the very first chief that I had an opportunity, female chief that is, to interact with, didn't become a chief till I think I was a master sergeant that late in my career, and that was Chief Master Sergeant Vicki Morrow. She might have stood 5 foot tall, and I'm sorry, Chief, if it's 5'1". I want to say maybe 5 foot, but she walked into a room 6 feet tall, and I never saw anything like it. She was strong, and she didn't take any guff from anybody, but she took care of her people. And I always really appreciated that. And she took me under her wing, and I want to say gave me the initiative and the drive when I saw what that looked like, and what that could look like, I guess I should say, and made me want to continue my career and be where I am today and do for my airmen the same things that I saw her do for hers. And I will always be immensely grateful to her for giving me a picture, no matter how late in my career, of what that looked like.
Thank you, ma'am. That was really good. I'm so glad that you could be here as well. Chief Walker.
Good afternoon. As everyone has said, thank you for this opportunity for all of us to come together in this capacity and be able to share a lot of our experiences, because I'm quite certain they're vast, and it's a great thing to bring us all together. So I'm Chief Master Sergeant Janae Walker. I am Security Forces, and I have been for 25 and a half years. So come September will be my 26th year mark, and as we keep moving along, that's just what we do. But in that time that I have been in, I have also been an Airman Family Readiness Superintendent, and I had a stint as the Chief of Protocol, and both of those opportunities were down in Turkey. So we talk about those influential chiefs. In my career field, there are not a lot of us. And it's something that, you search while you still have the influences that you have in front of you, and you kind of have to just take it with stride. And one person who stands out to me was not a Chief Master Sergeant when I met her. And as a matter of fact, we rarely, if ever, crossed paths, but I watched her career grow. And Chief Master Sergeant Jennifer Kersey definitely has an impact on not only our career field in security forces, but she was also a command chief, and she's getting ready to retire. But the one thing that I can say that's all encompassing that I've learned in my entire career, and why I look at her and then I seek out those other chiefs to look for inspiration, is she's an emotionally intelligent leader. And I think in order for us to progress and to move forward, you have to have emotional intelligence. And I think she embodies that. All 5 foot, I think I'm going to go off what the last chief said too. She might be 5'3", but she's a force to be reckoned with, and she's a blessing to have in your life if you know her. So again, I just kind of draw that back to an emotional, intelligent leader, and I think we need that everywhere we go in our careers. So again, thank you all very much for this opportunity, and I look forward to interacting with all of you and hearing your perspectives.
Thank you so much. This is the part, again, I'm going to put something. We are going to continue to do a series like this. It won't all necessarily be Q&A guided, but as you can see, my intent was to try to get as much as I could on one panel, so just see the different experiences, the different backgrounds on this panel. Chiefs, I definitely want to say thank you again for being patient as we work through all the technical things. But we're going to shoot right into this Q&A. So the first question, I'm going to pose it to, I'm going to go with Chief Mahoney first, and then Chief Walker, I would like for you to kind of echo behind her if you don't mind. So the first question is, do you all think that a gender-based Chief Master Sergeant panel is necessary? And you can say no, but why? And just from your perspective. So we go to Chief Mahoney first, if that's okay, ma'am, and then Chief Walker.
So from my perspective, I think that I think it's important to do one. I think we needed it. I think a lot, not just necessarily for us, but I think everybody else kind of wants that. And I think that's the reason why you had so many responses when you put this out. But I do think that diversity is important, more important, because it brings different perspectives. So having a panel with, you know, a diverse group of people, I think it's a better thing, but I do understand that sometimes you just want to hear it from someone you can relate to. And so I think both are important, but diversity to me, and being more inclusive, it's to me the way to go.
Yes, Chief. Thank you for that. Chief Walker.
So I think it is important for us to have this panel. Given my career field, obviously everybody's quite familiar with it. It is very uncommon to see senior NCOs in our career field that are women. And it's even more uncommon to see senior master sergeants and chief master sergeants. And I think it's very appropriate to say, yes, you do need that perspective, you do need that engagement, and you do need that visual and those conversations, if possible, to be able to relate to. Because sometimes you just cannot, you know, if I'm talking to male supervisors or male leaders, there's just some things they're just not going to understand. And that's okay. But I think for all of us to be able to have that opportunity to come out and just say, we do exist, first of all. And we do take care of our people, we do lead, we do make a difference in people's lives and try to bridge that gap, like you were talking about, Chief Mahoney, with, you know, the diversity and the inclusiveness, and just making sure that it's understood that we are solid leaders, we are compassionate leaders, we are people who stay engaged and genuinely want what's best for our people and our mission. So I think, you know, it does exist, but not from a perspective that we have to say we have to be completely separated in that concept. It is a unity type of a thing. And I think the more we can all work together to kind of bridge those gaps, I think the better off we are. And I absolutely think that we have over the years. In my time, it was not like this when I came in. You would not see these panels, you would not have these conversations. But as we go forward, I think we've done an incredible job in making sure we merge those worlds. So,
absolutely. Thank you so much, Chief Walker. All right, Chief Williston and Chief L, ma'am, if that's okay if I say Chief L, because I don't want to mess your last name up. I'm going to get it.
Absolutely.
Okay, so during this pandemic, how can anyone, I don't want to say junior enlisted, although that this is where that question came from, how does a supervisor balance taking care of their families and also being aware of checking up on their teams and kind of building their teams in this type of new normal right now?
I'll go ahead and go first. So it's definitely challenging for everyone, regardless if you're home alone right now, or if you're home with pets, or if you're home with kids and your spouse. So for me, my husband's also in the Air Force fellow chief, and he's mission essential, and we have 2 kids that we are currently homeschooling. So we are full of those challenges. But then I also have airmen that I care deeply about. So it's finding the proper mix of bringing it all together. So getting my work done, helping my kids with school, and doing what matters most for the Air Force is caring for our airmen. So what I do is I have different times that I'll call and just check on people, see how they're doing, see if they need anything. I'll text them. Actually, since we've been on this conversation, I got a text from one of my staff sergeants showing me the workout she did for the day. So that was pretty awesome just to hear that from her. I started doing we moved it to Microsoft Teams recently, a virtual bullet writing session. Just a lot of people needed help with bullet writing and they wanted the chief perspective. So just finding different virtual ways to engage and still let them know that you are there for them.
Right. Thank you. Chief Williston.
Okay, so the biggest thing, this pandemic is just a level of crazy that we all we're trying to hold on as we move forward. But one of the biggest things that we need to understand is that we have to slow down. So I am a member of the sustainment services flight. So food, fitness, lodging, laundry, postal operations, that's all us, right? So how do we get, our folks to, slow down and sustain the mission, right? We have to make sure we're connecting. So sometimes that means I have to get from behind what I'm doing that may seem so important at that time and really connect, because we're not physically, the facilities that we have are not physically located together. So that means getting in the car, going over and seeing people, working in the post office, working in the DFAC, just really trying to connect with folks, actually putting eyes on people, slowing down. If I want people to sustain the mission, I have to have them slow down, and I also need to show them that I know how to slow down. So I have 2 children. I'm married. My husband is no longer in the Air Force, but he is a key spouse. So it is a family affair. My children are young. They're 6 and 3. And so, with all of this, going on and the children not being able to go back to school, you also have to slow down and talk to your children and really explain to them that this is our new normal right now, and really hear them, really have a place where not only your people have an open dialogue, but you have an open dialogue and your family also has an open dialogue. So it's about connection, slowing down, and really putting eyes on people.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that. And the next question I wanted to go to Chief Hartson and Chief Oberg. What was the most challenging rank that you had to wear and why?
Okay, for me, I think I would say the most challenging would have been Master Sergeant. As the tech sergeant, you are the technical expert. You are the one that is making most of the daily updates. You're taking care of business. You tend to be the go-to person, right? And you get comfortable in that, right? But then when you make Master Sergeant, your focus tends to shift less on doing the actual day-to-day work, but managing and taking care of the people that do the day-to-day transactions. And sometimes for me, I found that it was hard for me to pull back. I still wanted to be the go-to. I still wanted to do the transactions. And I found myself just getting bogged down because I was trying to do both and not doing a very good job at it. I still wanted to be that technical expert instead of focusing my time and energy on taking care of the people so that they could do their job. So for me, I think Master Sergeant was the hardest transition for me to make.
Good answer. All right, Chief Oberg.
Hi. You know, I have to say Master Sergeant was in fact a challenging leap, but for me personally, I really think Senior Master Sergeant came with the most peril. And I think it's because being in the mid-tier of the senior NCO ranks, you have your Master Sergeants, like you said, they're your go-to people, they're your 100% SMEs that you're relying upon. And many times you're in a superintendent position, you're running the show, you're being asked to run the show as a superintendent, but you're also not yet a chief. And so there are some tables that you don't get invited to, and some meetings that you don't get invited to make some of those high-level decisions when you are the one that is kind of in the thick of your squadron and or your flight, and you really know what's going on. And I think that it was challenging for me to fight for that seat at the table and to really go to the chiefs and go to my commanders and say, I am the person that is running this section, and I need to have a seat at that table, because if you're going to make, you know, calculated, data-driven decisions about what you want to do in this section, you are going to need my input, and I should be in those meetings at that level. And I really think that was the biggest challenge for me, is having my Master Sergeants and my airmen look to me as a superintendent to run that squadron and or that flight, but then at the next level having my chiefs that weren't really understanding that there were some tables that I needed to have a seat at that I did not. And you really just, you have to stay engaged, and you have to stay aggressive, respectfully aggressive in trying to get your seat at those tables.
Ooh, that was a good one. Chief Carson and Chief Oberg, that just gave me a little chills with that passion piece. Okay, so I want to go now to Chief Wall and Chief G, I believe. My question to you all are, did you ever feel like you had to choose between family and your job or the mission? And when you do feel like you're in those type of situations, how do you choose? How do you deal with the guilt, that portion of it?
You want to go first, Shannon?
Well, I can go first, and of course, I will tell you, between the ranks of Tech Sergeant and Master Sergeant, I struggled. The struggle was real. Being dual military, you know, trying to stay afloat in the job while also trying to make sure that you're, back in the day, was checking all the boxes, right? Making sure that PMU is complete, the off-duty education, that whole person. It wore us out as a dual military family. And I will tell you wholeheartedly, my biggest regret in the United States Air Force is not separating as a staff sergeant when I got pregnant with our daughter, because there is no redos with your children. And while, but I'm learning that on the flip side now, because my kids are out of the house and I can't make up for that time. And while I think one of your questions addresses success, right? Everybody's success is differently. And for me, while I feel completely privileged to be a Chief Master Sergeant and a female Chief Master Sergeant, my success really is defined by my children and the smiles or the lack of smiles on their face. And I will tell you, between that staff sergeant and master sergeant, those most impressionable years, I missed out in some key and critical times in my children's lives that I didn't realize till years later. And so I say that as a mom, as a wife, as an airman, right, as a daughter, don't overlook. So in those critical times, when you're trying to balance life, you will often make the decision that I must work 9 hours today. I got to get this done today. But in hindsight, it was no pressure from my supervisors. I put that pressure on me. There was no male boss or female boss that said, you have to stay 10 hours. I put that on myself. And now in hindsight, I could have ended the duty day at 8 hours and still have been equally as accomplished. So it's just my insight, but my success may be different than others' viewpoints.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so I think, Shannon struck a chord, right? So my kids, both my boys are grown. They're 23 and 26. My husband's retired Air Force, so kids growing up, he was always deployed. So I had the boys and raised them while he was gone. But there are times where the job always took priority. There's times I had to send the boys to grandparents. I couldn't go through school, deal with them if they got sick, etc. So they took a back seat a lot of times to work. But again, I think it's because I felt I had to do that. And as an MTI with both boys pushing flights, husband deployed, I spent my time trying to figure out how to sneak him into the squadron sometimes. My leadership was really good about letting me bring him in. So I'll caveat with that. But which is a male-dominant career field. And so they didn't have that struggle trying to find time for the kids, walk to school, check on them, and still do my job. But I felt I had to do my job. So usually the job took priority over family time. And just like Shannon, they're grown now. I can't rehash, a lot of firsts that I missed or that their father missed being deployed. So, but I will say, I did Korea, Kunsan, as a chief, and did a remote 365 right off of that to Qatar. And I think it was like a light bulb shine where he said, okay, when I'm done with this, I've got to find balance, find some family time. So I hate to say that I really didn't figure that out till I was a chief. But when I got back, if it could wait till tomorrow, it waits till tomorrow. If it's not a fire burning or something crazy that has to be done or something going on, I will make my way home to make sure that I give my husband time. So I hate to say that it took me that long to learn that lesson, but that was really an eye-opener being away from family for 2 years.
Yes. Ooh. I'm a little blue, so it gets me a little emotional. And I kind of want to stay there. I kind of want to pose a question to everyone, because not all, because again, this isn't just for fellow female airmen, big A, but just collectively. Some individuals may not have kids or families or what be it. With you all, not so much of having a regret or the lessons learned that you all have had. If you could do it all over again, it could be, one question could be, if you could do it all over again, what would you do? And because you can't, what do you try to instill with the generation that's coming behind you to make sure that we try to put into perspective or to learn? Because everything that you're saying, that you all have said, those are the struggles that are still going on. So it's like, man, I know in certain, not in the job I'm in now, but I know in certain jobs or positions I've been in, I felt like I couldn't separate the two or take a step back if I felt like I needed to. So if you could do it all over again, what would you do differently? And then what do you try to instill with the individuals that you are responsible for as chiefs? I want to ask that to all of you. Kind of just go with that conversation.
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay, for me, one of the things that I try to do is create an environment where airmen feel comfortable to be able to express when they are having those moments. And so I think if they're comfortable, and they're more apt to come and say, hey, chief, or go to their first line supervisors to say, hey, I really do need to take a moment. And then when they do, not judge them for it. You know, I've seen several times where we say, you know, go ahead and take a knee, do what you need to do. And then, you know, there's a little backlash from the other coworkers because that member is taking a knee. So I think we need to make sure that we create an environment where airmen feel safe, you know, and free from judgment. Because I know for me, at this level, I mean, it's go, go, go. And we rarely get a minute to take a step back. And even when I do take a step back, there's a little bit of guilt that that sits with me, because I feel like there's that one airman I need to talk to, or there's some more information I need to push out. So there's a little bit of guilt that comes along with that. But one thing that I have to keep reminding myself is that if I don't take a knee and take care of me, how can I take care of my airmen? I'm not going to be able, physically able, mentally able to do the things that I'm required to do. So with that in mind, I have to keep telling myself, okay, it's your time. You need to take a minute. So
thank you for that. Chief Walker, and throw it your way. She's still there.
I'm here. You know, so goodness. So if there's one thing that I could change, I don't believe that, and this is just me. This is not anybody else. This is Janae. I don't believe that I would change anything because I'm on the path where I'm designed to, where I'm supposed to be. And it's all happened for a reason. I'm a single mother. And you talk about, you know, security forces and parenting, and then looking back across our forces. So I'm, the job that I'm currently in, I'm in a joint environment with DITRA, and I'm also the senior enlisted advisor for all 4 branches. And I look across and I say, okay, what situation are all of my people in? So again, like I said, I wouldn't change anything because I think this is where I was destined to be, and that's just where I'm going to keep moving. And it wasn't on purpose. It was just I went along as I went along and made things work as it happened, because that's kind of what we learned from the very beginning. You're going to be challenged. You're going to come across struggles. You're going to find ways to work through all of it the very best that you can. And I believe, despite some of the hurt that I've had, and some of the hardships that I've had, and looking across, you know, my entire career, it has made my daughter stronger. It has made me stronger. And I sit there and I look at my people and I say, okay, I acknowledge and recognize that you do have struggles, or you do have things going on. How can we best prepare you to keep going? Because they have goals, they have aspirations, they have dreams, and you want to make sure that you help them in the best capacity that you can. And sometimes it doesn't always look like what we want. And we have to remember that, you know, as we're moving forward and we're demanding all of these things that are mission related, because it's not going to slow down. The missions just aren't. But how can we maximize and optimize the time of our personnel so they can get some of that back that we didn't? And that's something that we talk about. You know, you go back and talk about this pandemic and the crisis that we're going through. I think DOD just proved that without a shadow of a doubt that we can still function without failure. We just have struggles, and we're learning how to overcome those struggles. And if we can work some way into a channel that allows us to maximize teleworking a little bit more, but we're still being efficient, and maybe we have people who are on task and not necessarily on time, but if they can get those tasks done and we have mission success, then let's keep moving forward. So I think this, you know, in this moment that we're sitting in, I think we owe it to ourselves and to our people to really sit down and say, okay, how can we do this better, proving what we just did? So I think if anything, just be that compassionate leader to understand what it is. And as the chief said, sometimes we have to take a knee, and we have to allow them to take a knee, and we have to be the ones that are going to protect them, to say this is the right thing to do. And if you've got something negative to say, you're not part of my team and I need to get you right. If not, let's move you on to where you need to be, because I'm here for my entire team, not just one person.
Absolutely.
I will say, yeah, I totally agree with Janae, but I'll tell you, you know, I get to hang out with the first term airmen that come in. And I think the biggest thing and the biggest way that we can help is our experiences are what made us. The only thing I probably would take back is my 2 practice marriages. Other than that, everything else is golden, right?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
all of our experiences that we have grown through, hiccups, mountains, speed bumps, I think are what made us. But it makes us human as long as we share those experiences for airmen to understand that they're not the only ones that go through things.
Absolutely. Thank you, ma'am.
I'll just add on to what she said. I mean, and when we show the airmen that we also have these issues and we're dealing with these type of things, we become more relatable to them as well, you know, more credible, because we're not perfect. I mean, I think that is something that is the big misconception. Oh, you're a chief, you have it all figured out. But we all know that that's not the case. That's not the case. So letting them in and showing that we do have those vulnerabilities, you know, it gives us more credibility. So
absolutely. Yes, ma'am. What do you think, Chief Mahoney?
So I will have to echo what the other chiefs have said. If I were to change anything, I would say that it's, we have 4 kids, and I already told you my background, married to another maintainer. So we have 4 kids. Our youngest is turning 2 next month. So we have a 17-year-old and all the way to a 2-year-old. So I would say that it's the time spent at work and always feeling that guilt for not being there long enough. You know, that type of stuff is the only thing that I think I would change. But, you know, I would have to say that it is our experiences that have gotten us where we're at. So, I mean, to me, telling the airmen about what I go through, that I'm human too. I mean, I was stationed at Tyndall. We went through Hurricane Michael. So I wanted to make sure, you know, being open and letting them know that they're not the only ones struggling, that they have someone else going through the same thing, allowing them to take their time and allowing them to grieve if they need to take that time, because somebody like them understands where they're coming from. You know, I think that's important. But yeah, I wouldn't change anything other than just that time that I feel that guilt for not spending time with my family. And then I feel that I'm supposed to be at work. You know, work can wait. There are a lot of times where we think there is a need for us to be there for everything, and there's not. Work continues to go on with or without us. So that is one thing that we have to keep in mind.
Yes, ma'am. All right, Chief L. I hope you're okay with that, ma'am. If you're not, please.
No,
it is good. I can do it one more lesson. Okay.
No, Chief L is just fine. Thanks. So I agree a lot with the others. We've all had our struggles along the way, and things have scabbed over, and you have that scar tissue now. And sometimes looking back at those things, it's painful, and you might have the tendency to not want to look back or reflect on it. But I think that's where it's really important, like others have shared, to share those learning experiences with the other airmen, because it does make you more relatable. But more so than that, they're able to take what you experience and they're able to help them get through their own personal struggles. It's able to give them different ways of thinking about things and coping with things, or it just really helps them.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Chief Williston.
I think that, you know, I didn't get married until I was, you know, later in my career. I was a master sergeant when I got married. But even before that, I brought work home. I was like connected. I had no safe space for myself. And so in that, I want to encourage people to create a safe space for themselves, even if it's just a corner in your house where your dorm room or whatever, where work doesn't enter that space, whether you have to decorate it, make it look pretty, put some, use a little Scentsy or diffuser or whatever. Create a safe space where you can be open and honest with yourself. Journal. If you're into that, record, because we have this fancy technology now where you can record some of the things that are going on with your life, and you can relate back to it and look on it, and you can see your actual growth. So I wouldn't change the experiences. I know that it got much more complicated as I became a mother, as I became a wife and a mother. I know it became much more complicated. And so then in that, I made it more complicated because I was bringing work home every day. And still, even now, I have to slow down. I have to create a safe space. I have to make sure that I am well taken care of in order to be able to take care of the people that are most important to me. So I encourage, male and female, to really just create a safe space for yourself, take care of yourself, journal, document this journey. This journey is an awesome thing. There are a lot of great stories, a lot of pivotal moments, a lot of aha moments that you don't want to forget. It's okay if things don't happen the way you feel that they should happen. It's okay to fail. It's okay, to say I'm tired. It's okay, to be honest, it's okay to do those things. We're human. And when people know that they're cared for, regardless of what we have to do, they will walk through fire for you. So just making sure, you're taking care of yourself, you're taking care of the mission, and you're taking care of your family. Because we can't do it without the human connection.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. That was a good one. I don't have a safe space. I need to find a safe space in my house because everything is my son's. I need to find a safe space. I like that. Chief Wall, we're working on it. Chief Wall, did I get to you, ma'am? Because I wanted to end with Chief Oberg for this one. Chief Wall, did I get to you?
So I really try to, especially COVID, one thing COVID has taught me is to take a step back. I really have embraced old school letter writing. And what I've connected with a lot of people in my squadron is writing them a personal note to say what I'm thankful for what they bring to the team. And sharing my experiences of maybe if I've seen them stressed. Our squadron has experienced some significant stress in the last 6 months, and that recovery, but those folks that have stepped up or that need to take a break, I try to acknowledge that, but also improve on my letter writing skills. So that's helped me. One thing I realized last week is I haven't taken time for myself. And as I transition towards retirement here in about 4 months, it's time to start, right? Because it's going to smack me right in the face if I don't. So I think COVID's helping me do that a little bit too. One thing I share with my airmen is don't speed to get there, right? Take a deep breath and really appreciate where you're sitting right now. I think a lot of folks try to get in this pace of what's next? What can I do next? Well, just live in the moment and really try to embrace the time. And whether I appreciate Chief Williston's comments about our sustainment flight and our services folks, right? It is hard. That morale piece is so hard, but we have found it, and Chief G has really helped out with that, to bring that connectedness to the mission, and however, in various ways that we can do it. But just letting them slow down and say, you are valued, and this is why you're valued, but really appreciate the job you're in right now. We'll get you to the next one. Don't worry about that. We'll focus on that, but slow down for just a minute. That's all I have.
Yeah. I want to make sure so my setup on this computer is different. I want to make sure I have everyone before I go to Chief Oberg to kind of close it. I believe I did. Okay. Chief Oberg, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. So I feel much like I would echo the security forces chief that I wouldn't necessarily change anything because I believe that I'm where I'm at for a reason. This is where I was supposed to be. Absolutely. However, if I could go back and I could have a conversation with my young little NCO self, and I could give myself 2 words of advice going forward, there are 2 things that I would talk to myself about. Number 1 is relationships. You have to build that connection. You have to build relationships with your team, not just your leadership, but your team, from the airman basic all the way up to your commander. Because I can tell you personally, there are times in my life I wouldn't have gotten here. We all have a lot of hardships and things that go on in our lives, right? I wouldn't have made it here if it wasn't for my other family. We have our family at home, obviously, that takes care of us, loves us, and looks after us. But I think it's important not to forget that you have another family. You have the blue family, right, that takes care of you. And you have to absolutely build those relationships with your wingmen, the people around you, and make sure that you're checking in, and make sure that your other wingmen are checking in on you, because that's what keeps people going. That's what keeps them alive. I can't tell you the number of times that I came to work, and I did it because I wanted to be there for the folks around me, and I wanted to be there for my people because I knew that they were relying on me and I didn't want to let them down. But you have to build those relationships, because you're going to need those people in lots of ways. You're going to need them emotionally. You're going to need them for technical advice. It's important to make those contacts, because you can't know everything as a chief. You need to reach out and make sure that you know where to find your expertise, and you cannot do that without building relationships. And you'll find they're very important to you later on. Staff sergeants and tech sergeants that I knew back then, I find myself as a chief calling now, who are seniors and chiefs in those positions. And we still rely on each other even now. And the second thing that I would tell myself is absolutely do not be afraid to fail. There are times that you have to trust that your leadership might see something in you that you don't see in yourself. Even if you don't have confidence yet that there's a job that you think that you can do, if your leadership thinks that you can do that job, even if you're afraid, even if you're scared, take that on. Some of the best lessons that I've learned in my career and in my life are when I got outside of my comfort zone. And I was doing a job that I didn't think I was qualified to do necessarily, or I didn't think that I was ready to do. You get ready. You'll get there. If somebody sees something in you, trust them. Trust that they see something that you don't see, and get outside of your comfort zone. It's the only way you're going to grow. It's the only way that you're going to mature. And it's the only way that you are going to learn how to provide value as a mentor to the people below you that are coming up. I hate to use the word below you, but your junior NCOs and your junior.
Understood, ma'am. Understood, Chief. Yes, ma'am. I definitely appreciate that. So in closing, for the recorded portion, I definitely wanted to thank you all once again for taking time to come together and to do this with us. I'm not going to go into the logic behind my 2 words that I like to use when I show respect to the ones that are above me, which is honor and legacy, where my peers, I hope that we take from this and we show you all your just due of honoring you. And to let you all know that you guys are leaving a legacy behind. Although you may have certain challenges or certain things that you had to overcome or certain regrets, one thing is for sure is that you all didn't give up. And you all have that secret sauce when individuals want to know how can they be impactful with their team or for their team. You all care. That's one thing that every person who nominated you all said, this person cares so much, this chief cares so much. Not only with all these other different things that you all have done to touch their lives, but you all have the secret sauce, which is just to care. So I thank you all for being a part of this movement. And I know that it won't be the last, and I definitely would like to invite you all to come again, and we'll come up with other ways to kind of get the collaborativeness, but just to have you all around each other and in the same room, it feels really good. I know Sergeant LaVan and I were saying how full we feel And this definitely is needed. So we're going to end the recording piece of it, but I just want to say thank you all. Stand by.